Paul O'Brien can speak for local councils. He's the Chief Executive of the Association for Public Service Excellence, and it speaks for local authorities. Paul O'Brien, isn't just anecdotal evidence from our own listeners. The Federation of Small Businesses did a big survey and told us that 90% of contractors told them they had been paid late by local councils, and that the local councils are worse than the private sector. Why do you think this is happening?
Well, first of all, can I say that the comments from the listener, that sounds horrendous, and it shouldn't be happening in this day and age. There's legislation that's come in, there's European directives that's come in that have been adopted into UK legislation about paying within 30 days. And I've looked into this the last couple of days about some evidence of this as well. And in the surveys that I'm seeing, the information I've seen, I've picked up a survey from Oxygen Finance that's suggesting that 90% of local authorities are paying within the 30 days. So it contradicts the other survey. I'm not here to trade off surveys. I don't think that is acceptable, what that person's been through, but without knowing the specific circumstances, because of course there can be many reasons as to why an invoice can be disputed and delays can be incurred as a result of that.
We also looked into it, obviously, when our listeners got in touch, and we have found that some councils take a big pride in being prompt payers. You know, they make it a priority. Stoke Council, for example, which makes you wonder, if one council can do it, why can't they all do it?
Well, I think it's becoming more important these days as well. We're moving to a system of local government finance where local authorities are almost fully dependent by 2020 on the council tax they raise and the business rates that they raise. So it's vitally important that small businesses, local businesses, large businesses within the area flourish. And there's lots of work from authorities like Stoke that you mentioned. They held a buyer event where there was 400 local businesses showed up at that to try and encourage them to bid for contracts from them.
Well, that has always been the politics, hasn't it? To use small local businesses and to encourage small local businesses to flourish. But you can't have it both ways, can you? You can't both use their labour and then make them wait to be paid. Yeah,
and what I would be suggesting from the information that I've got is what that listener spoke about is not the norm, and that's what's so disturbing with it. The information I have is that 90% of those invoices are being paid in time. And when you consider that local government pays £35 million invoices annually, to get 90% of them in time is actually quite good. Still not good enough. We don't want any not paid on time.
So that figure you have of the 90% is for all invoices. That could be to anyone, not just to small companies like this. They could still be keeping the small suppliers waiting. Maybe they're not scared of them.
Well, you know, I mean, I don't think people sift through 35 million invoices and look for particular companies to pick on.
We'll have to stop because we're running out of time, but they do have they do have agencies that stand between them and small suppliers who handle the work, so handle the invoices, so they do know who's who. Anyway, we must leave it there. Paul O'Brien, thanks very much for coming on.